years ago, a little girl came up to me before one of the funerals that we had had here at the church and asked if I had any toys that she could play with. I replied that we had some coloring books and brought her upstairs here to the sanctuary to get some crayons and books from the bookcase that we keep in the back of the sanctuary for children. As I was retrieving the books, the little girl was looking around and she asked, "What are all the books that are in the pews?" And I explained that the red ones were hymnals, which is a fancy word for a songbook, and that the black ones were Bibles. Her next question caused me to stop and think, for she asked, "What's a Bible?" Now, I knew that this particular family were not regular church attenders, and so it did not really surprise me that a little girl from this family might not know what a Bible was. That was not what caused me to pause. I paused to ask myself and to ask God in that moment, what would be the best way to answer a question for which the answer could take a lifetime? What is the Bible? And so I asked her if she had ever heard of God, to which I was very thankful that her answer was yes. But that question would have taken several lifetimes to answer, and I'm not sure I had that much time. I explained that the Bible was the story of God's relationship with us. And she was satisfied with that answer and happily accepted the coloring book and crayons that I offered and went off to find a table. And ever since then, I have been thinking that when it comes to explaining matters of faith, we can sometimes give more information than what was requested. And in doing so, we could overwhelm people, and not just children. For faith is a deep matter. It is something that is beyond simple responses. As I said, it could take me a lifetime to explain what is the Bible, never mind to explain what is God. But I didn't want to overwhelm this little girl who had just asked a simple question. So it doesn't mean that even though it's a key question, that we have to give every single detail of every single opinion when we respond. Sometimes, like the song we sang at the beginning of worship this morning, sometimes it's best to proceed inch by inch, row by row. A few weeks ago, we had the blessing of welcoming little Noella with the sacrament of baptism. She's here with us. She's not here at the moment, but she's here with us this morning. Now, this sacrament has very deep implications for our faith. To explain all of the deep mysteries of baptism would take maybe not a lifetime, but a long time. And Noella, to be honest, didn't absorb any of those layers of meaning that day. The Blessed Child's only a few months old after all, and she probably won't even remember this day. But her parents will remember, and her grandparents will remember. And all of those who came with them, their friends and their family, will remember. And all of us who witnessed will remember that this sacrament is the beginning of our relationship with God. It's why we do baptism in worship, to remind us, to help us remember that this is the start of our relationship with God, that we are in a relationship. And it reminds us. It is a relationship also that is not based on our accomplishments, on our actions. But just like it was for Noella, it was an action and a relationship based solely on God's love, freely given. 1 inch. And during the first few years, we know that children often take naps at 9:30 in the morning, right at the time we begin worship, so that they're not able to be here in worship with us every week. 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. 9:30 is a nap time. They're tired. So it's hard for parents to bring them here. We understand that. when the children do come, sometimes they're wiggly, sometimes they're giggly, sometimes they cry, sometimes they toddle around the sanctuary smiling at all the people. And when they are greeted with smiles in return, when their parents are assured that we love having children with us, even when they are chattery and giggly and wiggly and walking all around the sanctuary. Those parents learn, and ultimately those children learn about the unconditional love of God through the unconditional love that we offer their children. Another image. A few years later, when they start gathering with other children in our church family, they begin to hear stories from that book about God's relationship with us. What are some of the stories that you know that are in that book about God's relationship with us? What's the story? Anybody? Oh, please, somebody's got to know one story.
23rd Psalm.
Jonah, did I hear? Jonah and the whale. Jonah, who refused to go where God said go, but eventually did. What else I heard about it?
23rd Psalm.
23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. What else? What other stories are in that book? Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark. We love Noah's Ark. The children love it. No child gets out of Sunday school without hearing about Noah's Ark. It is the story of God's promise to protect us. And also the story of God's promise never again to destroy the earth. And God said, I do set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a token of the covenant that I make between me and you and every living creature, that I will never again destroy you. Remember that story. What other stories? Moses, who was saved by his sister, smart actions, from being killed, and grew to become a leader of his people and lead his people out of Egypt and into the Holy Land, a land that he himself never saw, but he still led his people. There are story after story after story. And you see, those stories stick. I bet some of you remembered some and just were a little bit shy about saying them, and that's okay. I know that those stories stick because that's another inch in the growth of our relationship with God. And then there comes a time when we put that book about God's relationship with us into the hands of our children. They learn that this is their book. It is their story. It has been given to them, and it was written for them. We quite intentionally chose that particular edition of the Bible because it is written at a grade level that can be read by a child in the 3rd grade, like Luke and Matt and Sean will be. And we intentionally give another edition to young people when they're older, like Caitlin and Ethan, Andre, Joshua, and Noel. We do this on purpose. We want them to have a Bible that's not a children's Bible, one that allows them, now that they're older, to delve deeper into the stories. And so it gives a little bit more information. We do not want the Bibles to be saved as heirlooms. We want them to be read. And so you parents out there whose children receive Bibles this morning, I want you to read those Bibles with the children. I love seeing a battered Bible. One that has dog-eared pages, that has underlined verses, that has notes in the margin. So that means that they, you, have read the Bible, have read that story about your own relationship with God and your marriage. Several years later, when they are old enough to engage in the material in that book, on a more personal level, these young people may participate in the confirmation class, where the learning is not just a matter of learning about God's relationship with people like Noah and Moses and Jonah. It's more about how do these stories relate to me in my life today? What is God's relationship with me? And what is my relationship with God? Another image. Some of the young people that are graduating this year participated in the confirmation, and there are some others that are graduating, but also participated. These people who are graduating are moving on to new adventures in their lives. They will encounter new people, new thoughts and ideas, new challenges and obstacles in their lives, but all those steps, inch by inch, row by row, have been planted within their hearts. How they will grow and bloom will not be revealed until the future. But I trust that the seeds have taken root. For you see, I remember sharing the confirmation process with the 3 people that are graduating high school. And I remember all the words of wisdom that came not from me, but from them. I recall particularly one story about one of the young people. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to embarrass the person. But when asked, what do you think God said when you were baptized? Responded with, I think God said, welcome, and I love you. That's the very same message that we wanted Noella and her family to hear just a few weeks ago in that very first inch that she took. We wanted to make sure that they heard, welcome from God, and I love you. Yes, another inch. Yeah, actually, I think that one's good. And like the people in Berea that Rebecca just read to us about, these young people have read the scriptures and have grown in faith. Like young Timothy in the second scripture, they have witnessed our teaching, our conduct, our aim in life, our faith, our patience, our love, and our steadfastness. They've also witnessed our foibles, our stumbling, and our mistakes. They've witnessed the times when we would not forgive. They've witnessed when we've argued and when we fall short in our discipleship. But because the ground was made fertile by their life in faith and relationship with God, they know that just like in that very first inch in baptism, our relationship with God is not based on our accomplishments, our actions, our perfection. It is based solely and solidly in God's love freely given. That is the basis of our relationship with God. Not that we came to God, but that God came to us in love. And it's a story that doesn't end today. It is a story of our relationship with God that continues throughout our lives. One step, 1 inch at a time, making our hearts into fertile ground for a garden that God will bless, that God will tend faithfully and lovingly. It's a story I want